Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum. I'm your host Faisal Raza Khan and you are watching Foresight. Viewers, Pakistan is all set to promote democratic norms and strengthen its parliamentary system. As announced, General Elections 2024 will be held next year on 8th of February. In that spirit, electoral process begins immediately after the announcement of election schedule. Election campaigns already started. Potential candidates are submitting their nomination papers. More than 128 million voters will decide the fate of the different contesting candidates, particularly for National Assembly 266 seats and also 593 Provincial Assembly seats. These elections are very crucial because Pakistan needs economic strength, and for that particular matter, political stability is very important. And these elections are going to build a momentum to have the political stability and ultimately the economic prosperity. To discuss all the contours of this upcoming election and electoral process, we have in our studios Dr. Wasim Ishaq. He is the senior analyst. Most welcome to you, sir. And Saira Ijaz, she is also the senior analyst, and along with these guests here in studios, we have Brigadier Retired Hamid Rashid Malik joining us online. Most welcome to you, sir, as well. Now, Dr. Wasim, when we are talking about elections, what's your opinion regarding the election schedule, especially the extension of the date for the submission of nomination papers? Because just today, Election Commission has given a couple of more dates to have to take the forms and then resubmit it, those nomination papers.
Faisal, today Pakistan is at the crossroads. We are defining a new history for Pakistan, and that will be a game changer for Pakistan. As the election schedule was announced, and I think because of certain complications and certain judicial processes, the candidates did not get enough time for submission of papers. So whatever Election Commission has announced, it has given a free and fair opportunity to all those aspiring candidates so that they can conveniently submit their documents, so that everybody should get an inclusive opportunity for contesting in the elections. So from my perspective, that giving few days extra to have a maximum inclusive participation is a good step, and all the candidates should rather be encouraged, not through a zero-sum sort of a game, but they should rather prefer and appreciate everybody to get maximum participation as a candidates, and all the political parties and all the public should also get absolutely motivated and enthusiastic about the successful conduct of upcoming elections.
So, Saira, when we are talking about this election process, the electoral process which is already begun, how do you see this, the process of nomination paper submission? It is going smooth across the country? And if we just go through, can you just explain that some of the political parties related that like JUI, like some of the candidates from Karachi, independent candidates, they might be complaining about the nomination papers, along with they are asking about the security as well.
Yes, these I was about to mention these things as well, that because now the time that the government should pay heed to these things. Election Commission being the watchdog of the entire electoral process, PILDAT, FAFIN, all the relevant organizations need to highlight these things, and the state has to play an important role to make this process of paper submission should be made very smooth, and inclusivity should be the hallmark of it. And but I think elections generate their own dynamics. As the polling times gets closer, things start to shape up, things come up, but at this initial stage, the provision of an extension of 2 days is also a positive gesture.
Your point well taken, your point well taken. Brigadier Retired Hamid, when we are talking about elections particularly, just recently when Election Commission of Pakistan has given a data of the new voters, now we have at least 128.5 million voters in Pakistan and 22.6 million new voters added into the list. So how do you see these new voters? Will it bring a new dynamics to the elections?
Surely, Faisal, because we must understand we have a youth bulge, and that youth bulge will be of paramount importance to decide the democratic fate of Pakistan. And this is silver lining also, because what we see that our youth is well educated also, well groomed also, and in that context, I think the old ideas and myopic thinking will going to change also, because the youth will bring new ideas. They will also bring better practices in the democratic norms and rules in Pakistan. And I think the Election Commission has very wisely made it public, so that all the contestants who are going to contest in the elections must understand the dynamics and imperatives of their democratic campaigns and also their political nature of contest which they are going to have in the forthcoming elections. Here, an important point which I want to highlight, that as the responsible voters, now it is upon us to ensure and decide a rightful government for Pakistan in the forthcoming elections, instead of our myopic petty interest as well as the family or the clan bonds or our political affiliations. We must try that to know about the manifesto of the political party, about the candidature status, what are his thoughts, what are his achievements, and in that context, like the developed countries, we must go for a very pragmatic and decision-based voting and ballot by our voters in the forthcoming elections.
So, Brigadier Sir, when we are talking about this youth bulge and particularly 55 million voters, what would be the ultimate impact on elections? Because from 18 years of age to 35 years of age, voters are about 55 million. So, 43.85 is the percentage of the total voter population. So, how do you see it?
First impact of this, what I can visualize and what I can foresee, is the status quo will be challenged. That the word electables is going to be challenged, because now people will view what has been the performance of the different political parties as well as the candidates, and they are going to decide as per their not personal interest but as per the national interest. And I think this youth factor is an important aspect which needs to be reckoned with special focus by all the political parties and the candidates. And I think this youth is going to serve the national interest, and they are going to form a rightful government with the better democratic norms, and which is going to pay heed to the national interest instead of their own petty personal interests.
So, your point well taken. Dr. Wasim, when we are talking about the same question to you, 55 million of the young voters, they are now going to cast their, most of them are the first time into the electoral process. So, how do you see that, what ultimate be the impact on Pakistan democratic system and the parliamentary system? How do you see it?
From my perspective, these elections, as I highlighted earlier, are game changers for Pakistan. One, that for the first time, the census, correct census data which is available to us is 241.8 million Pakistani population. This is open source data which is available, and out of which almost half of the population.
Talking about the digital census done last time.
Yeah, latest census.
Latest.
And almost half of the population is eligible voters. So this is very encouraging in the history of Pakistan. And out of that, the bulk is, again, half of that is the youth voters. So you see, we have now seeing a defining patterns whereby the voters have more maturity and voters have more enthusiasm in the future of Pakistan and in the democratic dispensation of Pakistan. So from my perspective, this is a very positive development, and this is a very encouraging sign whereby, for example, if we assume that entire 128 registered voters would participate in that, that would give a huge credibility to our overall understanding of the democratic norms. 128 million. So it will give a huge credibility, one, the conduct of elections, and secondly, any government which is formed as a result of those elections, because this is unprecedented in Pakistan's history.
So, Saira, would these voters cast their vote based upon issues which Pakistan is confronting, which the youth is confronting, like education, like science and technology, like economy, like poverty and all others, or it would be based upon alignments with the political parties?
Before answering to your question, I would like to add another positive development, that is electoral gender gap has been shrunken a lot.
Yeah, definitely it
Yes,
is. It is.
according to the latest reports, which is a very positive thing. You know, now the women will be given more and more representation. Now, again, the time will decide that how much those, women.
No, fortunately, we have more than 46% of the women now they are going to cast the vote.
So that's a very positive development. Now, coming to your question is, I think these are difficult times as well. And honestly speaking, I think that political alignments, political interests, and political, affiliation and inclinations will play a defining role. Definitely, economics, political economy is one of the biggest factors on which the oldest and the PMLN and PPP will play on that factor. But I think youth will decide and will give vote on its own, political vibes and will according to its own affiliation.
So, Dr. Wasim, when we are talking about the voter education, how much it is important to know their own rights, what are their voting rights, what are their genuine rights to cast the vote, and how much it is important to have awareness about it?
I think our society has gone through evolution process, and we have learned through a hard way now that the ultimate destiny of Pakistan lies in the democratic process. Since last 3 governments, we have seen ups and downs, and we have seen a lot of political instability, and as a result our country has suffered a lot in the process. So now we are more educated, more informed, and more responsible. So all those voters who will be casting now would be actually factoring in 2 things. One, political affiliation would certainly matter, but this time it may not be the only factor. So certainly all those parties would be giving a developmental agenda, education and health agenda, the employment generation agenda. I am sure certainly that would win the ground on the election day.
Definitely the different parties' manifestos are in process, and
Yes.
when they come, obviously they must cater what you think, what women think actually, what their needs are and how we can move forward. Brigadier Retired Hamid, when we are talking about monitoring of the Election Commission of Pakistan appointed at least 32 regional monitoring commissioners. So, and overall monitoring of the election. So how do you see this aspect, because this is very important prior to the elections, on polling day and post election?
I think this oversight mechanism will be of great help to ensure that there is no malpractices being observed in the elections. Either it is as per the campaigns of different candidates, or it is at the polling stations, or made by the voters also. So in that context, we also need to realize that the international observers will also be there, and these elections need to be free, fair, and impartial, so that all the voters and parties, they agree upon a very decent and I think election commission. And it is of paramount importance to understand, because any government formed after the elections will be taken as a rightful government if the election has been conducted in a very peaceful, free and fair environment. So in that perspective, these regional, I think, monitoring systems made by the Election Commission are paramount importance. But here I would also like to urge that the federal and the provincial establishment institutions and the caretaker government needs to join hand with the election commissions so that they imbibe trust and confidence among the public as well as among the voters that these elections are being held as per the best democratic practices, and these are free and fair in all aspects. There is no intervention by any party or by any agency. So in that context, the public, and here also I would like to respond to your previous question also, that the voters need to realize their most important responsible role, and they also know that their vote is being casted and their ballot is being considered as per the manifesto and as per the needs of their demand, which they will have from the future government.
Definitely, you are very right on that aspect. When we are talking about electoral process, Election Commission is very much confident about the scrutiny of the nomination papers, but do you think that it is going to block some of the candidates who are who might be having corrupt practices or malpractices or tax evaders and dual nationals or something like that, because Election Act 2017 is very much clear on that. So how do you see that that would be practice also?
Here I would like to highlight that the Constitution's Article 62 and 63 are the basic for the candidatures, I think, rightful entry into the parliament. And secondly, as you highlighted, that the Election Commission has also laid down certain conditions that apart from the national identity card, they need to submit their tax returns for the last 3 years, as well as their record of passport, that their visits abroad. And I think they have also laid down that how much finance a candidate can spend on his campaigns, and all these monitoring aspects and scrutiny, I think, should be made public also, and it should be fair and justified. It should not be victimizing any certain party or certain candidate. It should be across the board scrutiny and based on the, I think, justified judgments made by the election commissions. And it is the first listener test which will make election commission eligible to hold free and fair elections.
Your point well taken, Dr. Wasim. When we are talking about the scrutiny process, it is very crucial, you know, that this will give a path to the election and particularly to the voters as well, that where we have to go. So how do you see this, because this is the skeleton of all of the electoral process?
In my perspective, Election Commission is a very, very responsible organization.
No doubt, yes.
And the credibility and transparency of election is the biggest challenge they are facing nowadays. So therefore, they would do everything possible to make sure that free, fair and transparent elections not only are conducted, but felt and seen and ratified by everyone outside. So from those perspective, scrutiny is a very, very important phase. And scrutiny does not mean that a particular candidate or a particular party should be targeted. It's not like this. Scrutiny has to be based as per the Constitution of Pakistan, so that every candidate who has been allowed to contest the election really upholds the Constitution of Pakistan and merits all the criteria which has been actually laid out in the Constitution of Pakistan to be a responsible representative of the people of Pakistan.
Definitely. And Saira, when we are talking about the political parties, now they are towards the common people. They are going door to door. They are having public meetings, corner meetings, having preparation of the manifesto, as well as it's all election process and the election campaigns are geared up. So how do you see that thing? Do you think that every party is playing its role now?
Yes, to some extent, but I think when nowadays is a time of a social media times. Things have changed a lot. Even in this election, things are very different even from our last elections of 2018. Certain parties are not very much active and are not using, you know, or are not making maximum use of the social media.
But you know that only 20 to 30 million people are at social media. So Pakistan is a country having 240 million people. So how do you categorize it? Just the social media and not having interactions with the common people?
I'm not saying that social media is the only factor which will determine the fate of the political parties. What I'm trying to say is
that is the one factor.
That is one of the major or main factors. But most of the, you know, middle class, educated middle class, urban class is on social media. And social media is a very, you know, useful tool to influence the people and to get convinced and to convince them as far as your political manifesto is concerned, or as well as your accomplishments are concerned, your grudges, your problems with the other political parties are concerned. So what I was trying to say is that now in the time of social media, things have changed a lot. And now with the coming of AI and all that, pre-poll, post-poll and even poll day rigging will become.
I have a question on that. I'll ask to you that question. Dr. Wasim, when we are talking about the political parties in the political arena, there might be having some sort of alignments, some seat adjustments, some political thoughts. Might be some parties who were foe earlier might be friends now, because it's politics. All is going to be happen. So how do you see that perspective?
I think as long as the candidates lists are finally they have submitted their nominations and the lists are out, the political leadership of all the political parties, partly they have already started, and then I'm sure the process would kickstart from maybe next week or the next to next week, when all the political parties would be having a greater engagement with the other political parties, and this seat adjustment is very much possibility, and we have seen certain signals coming from different political parties. Although they have not decided, finalized as yet, but it is a great possibility. And although I think more the inclusive participation and the more inclusive government, I think it will be better for Pakistan, for better political stability for the times to come.
When we are talking about the political process, there are lots of small parties as well, lots of candidates are coming independent, and what would be the ultimate fate of the general elections? That do you think that huge parties are going to take major chunk, or the small parties are also going to make some impact?
Faisal, if we see the political landscape of Pakistan, we need to understand that we have a political polarization prevailing in our society. When we talk of different provinces, the different major parties have the major chunk of their voter bank in the different regions. So in that context, I think the small parties in the past has been getting the maximum benefits, and they are also known as the blackmailing tool also, and they have been getting better ministries also through their negotiation process with the major parties, because we have seen that the major parties were required to get some support from the small parties to form government. And here also what I think that the future elections are not going to have some substantial difference from the past course of democratic norms and also the results. Here I think the small parties, they have been also their specific vote bank when we talk of different region, either it is in Balochistan, in KPK or in Karachi, and also in southern Punjab. We have seen certain electables who come to the parliament as independent candidates, and they get vote basically based on their family background or their own specific political mandata. So I think with this, what we need to realize that in a democratic process, either the major parties or the small parties, they have a right to contest and get vote from their specific vote bank. However, all these, their manifesto and their direction should be that they come and they pay heed to the national interest instead of fostering their own manifesto of specific region or their specific mindset.
Your point well taken, Brigadier Retired Hamid. Dr. Wasim, when we are talking about the overall landscape of political arena in Pakistan, it is always that we have lots of issues. So when do you think that this process is going to be smooth, or do you have some sort of things in mind that might be the security issues or any other issue will deteriorate some of the process?
One thing that I belong to optimistic school of thought. I am always optimistic about the future of Pakistan. So I am usually optimistic about all those happenings which are happening in Pakistan, or those are impending. So election is one such thing about which I am very optimistic, that we do not have any challenges for which can create hindrance in terms of conduct of elections. However, security is one such aspect, and especially in the former FATA areas where we have seen the resurgence of TTP. However, our valiant soldiers have, despite that they have sacrificed they have given us supreme sacrifices.
But some of the political parties are complaining about the security situation, and they always insisting the Election Commission of Pakistan to provide them the security as well.
Yes, the government is also mindful of that, the security institutions are also mindful of that, and election commission is also mindful of that, and they are taking all those precautions necessary and possible to provide all sort of security which can satisfy those political parties. So rest assured that security should not be a big issue on the election day, and I am very optimistic that the law enforcing agencies are totally geared up to provide security on election day.
Saira, how do you see the women candidates' participation in the general elections? I am not talking about the other seats which are the special seats for women. I am talking about direct contest in the elections. So, what about the women candidature, and also regarding the women voters, because we have seen, although we have 46, more than 46% of the women voters, but in most of the areas they are deprived of voting.
Yes, that's what I mentioned earlier, that electoral gender gap has been reduced a lot, that is below 10 million now, which is a very positive sign, and that shows that women are very much active now politically, economically and socially in the political Pakistan socio-political setup. So I'm very hopeful that in the coming elections, women will play their role as much as they can, but here comes the role of the society, comes the role of the caretaker government, comes the role of the media, that women should be encouraged, should be supported to, you know, to go to the polling stations, to play their role, to cast their vote, and to, sensitize them.
Definitely, because they are the half of Pakistan's population.
Half of Pakistan's. And in addition to it, I would also, with this question, I would like to add that Pakistan's political landscape is now very much, needed a very much needed reform. That is the, number of seats one election candidate can contest. There is a need, and I hope that the coming elected government will bring this into the parliament and bring the, amendment in 223 article of the constitution, that not more than 2 seats a candidate should contest on, because it is an international democratic norm, and many countries have addressed this issue, including Bangladesh, including India, and UK even has banned this thing, only 1 seat, because it will gain them the voters' confidence. And it is a high burden on national exchequer. Millions and millions of rupees have been, spent on the by-elections. So such sort of issues should be highlighted and should be, on the agenda list and during part of our discussions as well, because.
Okay. Your point well taken, Dr. Wasim. When we are talking about these elections, in last election and in every election, we have seen that independent candidates, they are taking more chunk rather than the well-established political parties. So, do you think this election is also going towards the independent candidates as well?
I think this election will be quite different from the previous elections. One, we have been through a sort of political instability for 5 years, and we have seen all sorts of handicaps coming on Pakistan and difficult days coming on Pakistan in all domains. So, therefore, I think this time the bigger political parties in support or in alliance with the smaller parties would take the bigger chunk. However, there will be independents, but the independents would not actually be in a dictating position. So, when the government is formed, I am very optimistic that all those independence candidates would then side by the government rather than becoming to the opposition.
So, are you seeing some sort of a hung parliament, or there would be some sort of majority of any political party?
Little difficult to predict at this moment, but I think it will be a simple majority, not the hung parliament.
Very huge statement.
Yes.
Brigadier Retired Hamid, when we are talking about the political parties, people of Pakistan are very hopeful. They have high hopes that at least some of the political parties take them out of these storms-like situation, at least some sort of sigh of relief for them related to the social protection schemes and all that, and inflation go down. So they are very hopeful about it. Political parties are in process. They are having lots of promises. Manifestos are coming. So how do you see that aspect, the people's aspect?
I think it will be the of special focus for all the political parties, especially the big parties. And when we talk of the challenges being faced by Pakistan, these are known to the every person. And I think the cost of living for a common man is becoming unbearable. And the lower middle class is being pushed to the poor. And all these challenges, the economic woes, as well as the high prices of gas, electricity, and petroleum, these are making the life worse for a common man. And common man is always the focus of all democratic parties, because being voter, it is the most precious commodity for them. And government, a democratic government is basically the government by the people for the people. And in that context, I think the major parties must understand, and they should frame their manifesto in a way that common man woes are kept as the most prioritized course of action after they form the government. And also for opposition also, I would like to urge that it is also the responsibility of the opposition to force the government to take steps which are for the betterment of the life of a common man. And the future government, whichever party forms that, the major, I think, challenge for them would be first the economic revival, a solid economic plan they need to have, and job creation so that the youth bulge is not made frustrated. And also apart from that, they need to also ensure that as far as the inflation, food inflation comes down, the GST is reduced, the prices of electricity, gas, and petroleum are reduced, so that the common man finds some, I think, cushion for a happy life in Pakistan.
So, Brigadier Sahib, what about those marginal society segments, particularly the minorities, when we are talking about transgenders, we are talking about those special persons. So, whether the political parties are going to cater their needs as well and their rights as well?
Especially what we see that in the National Assembly seats also, 10% seats are reserved for the minorities, and as well as our religion also have special protection for minorities. And Pakistan being the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, and our constitution also aligned to that, we need to have special rights given to the minorities. And you also very rightly highlighted up the issue of the transgenders. And I think being a very civilized and developed society, the Pakistan government should also ensure their representation also in the lower house as well as in the upper house also. Because especially as Saira highlighted the issue of the women folk, that they are not given rightful representation in the lower house as well as in the upper house. I think minorities and the transgender and also such like special people, they need to have their representation in the lower house as well as in the upper house, in the federal as well as in the professional assemblies also.
Okay, your point well taken. When elections are very crucial, as Pakistan is right at the juncture where paced up regarding the stability and having the economic prosperity. Pakistan is marching towards that. So elections are very crucial. So in that crucial moment, how do you see the role of judiciary to resolve electoral issues, electoral conflicts and all others, and in quick time?
I think other than judiciary, all the state institutions are totally geared up. They know their responsibilities, and especially the burden judiciary has taken on itself. And we have seen the last day Chief Justice, before flying off, had to conduct a urgent decision regarding the conduct of election and the issue of election schedule. So judiciary is absolutely responsible and mindful of all those things. And I say that now at this point in time, all the state institutions are really geared up, and everybody is enthusiastic to make sure, and everybody is optimistic to make sure that elections are held in a free, fair and transparent manner, in a highly successful manner. And whatsoever government forms as a result of these elections will be very critical and very crucial for coming 4 to 5 years, because in that case the entire promised investments from the Gulf countries, the remaining part of CPAC and everything has to roll down into those 4 to 5 years. So therefore, that is a very critical time for Pakistan, and everybody has realized. All the political parties are also mindful of that. So I am sure everybody will make their best efforts to make it a success.
So Saira, do you have hopes that the issues like climate change, like disasters, like environmental protection, the social protection and all others, these are the very important issues in these days. Pakistan has fought a case in recent COP28. So how do you see that, whether the manifestos will cater all these areas as well?
We are left with no choice when it comes to climate change, when it comes to disaster management, and when it comes to other such existential threats to any nation. If these political parties, whoever comes into the government, doesn't have any other option other than to cater to these questions. And I think recently there was a meeting, and Secretary Ministry of Climate Change, I was in a event, at the event, he was explaining what were the gains and what were the credits goes to the ministry, and what Pakistan actually got in the last COP28, because he has recently came back and was giving briefing. So I think as Dr. Saab very rightly mentioned, that everybody is now geared up. We are at the brink of existential threats, and we are left with no other choice. And when it comes to challenges of elections, whoever comes into the government, and whoever, the biggest challenge for that government is to bring stability into the very much fractured polity of our
very well
country.
elaborated. Dr. Wasim, when we are talking about electoral process, now Election Commission of Pakistan also relying upon technology, information technology, artificial intelligence and all others, and we have social media as well, and there is cyber threats as well. So how do you see that whether any prevention, protection of our election data along with the electoral data, the lists and all others, might be all of them were protected, but there are threats there that might be, some of the cyber attacks would be at the systems and all that.
Threats have always been there, and I think from all threat hypothesization, the Election Commission and the caretaker government and the relevant state institutions, they should be mindful of that, and I am sure they would have taken all the necessary precautions. So in my opinion, it is not a big challenge, and it should not going to affect the election as well as the holding of the safety of the election results, etc.
So Brigadier Retired Hamid, would you like to respond at this regarding the use of information technology, artificial intelligence and technical gadgets and all that, and threats of cyber attack on any system of the Election Commission of Pakistan?
I think this is reality of the time, and this threat has been visualized and would be prepared to respond also. And I would like to allude that Election Commission has a very robust system of ensuring transparency as well as the compiling of the ballot results and its communication in time. And what we have seen in the past also, that the media has been very vibrant also, and has been reporting the unconfirmed results quite timely. And here I think all these things, the cyber security will be beefed up, and we have a very good IT technology available in the country, and the experts also, and they will be able to ensure that free and fair elections are held. And Election Commission can also take help from the experts available from the caretaker government also. And all institutions of Pakistan are obliged to help Election Commission in holding free and fair elections. And I think these threats are quite logical also, but their response will be well prepared by the Election Commission with the support of the experts.
Thank you very much for your presence online, Brigadier Retired Hamid Rashid Balik. Thank you very much for that. And Dr. Wasim, thank you very much, because you have elaborated things very well, really. Thank you very much, Sarah. Well participation. Thank you. So nice of you for your presence here in studios. Viewers, as you all know, that whole of the Pakistani nation wants elections. It is because that we intend to that have stability in the country, and particularly to have economic prosperity, and every single individual, every citizen must have to feel that now Pakistan is stable, Pakistan is politically viable, Pakistan is economically prosper, so that we can move forward in towards future. This is very important. An electoral process as it begins with the announcement of schedule, now after nomination paper there would be scrutiny, the final list, and hope so that we have definitely in the next year in February, on 8th of February, we have the general elections in the country. So we have tried our best to elaborate each and every aspect of the electoral process. This is all from today's Foresight. It's time to sign off. Allah Hafiz Nasir.